one of the great opportunities is after I came off of Dewey is I went to Marine Corps University to teach command and staff and got to see more up close the Marine Corps perspective of things. And as one of the few Navy guys there, I got called into a meeting at one of the commands at the warfighting lab at Quantico, and they were trying to figure out what was the thing that put the Marine Corps at best advantage against some of the threats that were out there. And the thing that we sort of came up with and started to build was a thing called expeditionary base operations. We didn't really have a name for it, but to see the process as far as here's the mission that we have as a service, here are the resources that we have, here's the resources we could have, what are all the things if we put these together that really would provide an advantage for what we think the United States needs to do. And so to me, it was a great opportunity to see force design actually happen.
Hey everybody, I'm Chief Xander Gamble, and I am here on this episode of Pass the Word with Mr. Russ Evans, our Associate Dean of Naval Studies. And today we're going to be talking about the third course in the Naval Studies Certificate, NAV 103, Naval Force Design. So tell me, why did we choose Naval Force Design in the certificate program?
So a lot of times we get so focused on what we're doing, whether it's in our MOS or in our rate, and we don't necessarily get to see the big picture. So I think it's important to understand here are the security goals of the United States. Here's what the services cover down as far as here's our role in achieving or accomplishing those security goals, and then seeing how all the naval forces come together as naval forces, sort of like we talked about that example back in 102 where we talked about Guadalcanal. What does that mean today? How do we think that these all three services, all the naval services come together to accomplish those goals? So we're looking at one, what does the President or the Secretary of Defense say the services need to do? How do the services say they're going to do it? And then how do the services come together in order to achieve those goals?
Okay, and so, taking a look at all these different goals and putting them all together, what does that course look like? What does that material look like in the classroom?
Well, we actually start with the national security strategy as far as this is what the President says our goals are and what we need to do. And then we look at the national military strategy from the Department of Defense that says, okay, this is what we think is our role in this. And then we take a look at the service documents from all three services that say, here's what we think we need to do in order to accomplish this. And then the other thing we look at is, all right, what do you do with naval forces if you have them? So what are some things that what are the roles, what are things you could ask naval forces to do in national security? And of that spectrum of options, are we asking our naval forces to do the right thing so all of these things match? Not only do the services have to make sure that they're meeting today's goals, but they also have to have one eye on what tomorrow's goals are as well. Because as long as it takes to build something and then field it and then go all the training and actually get something implemented, you always have to be thinking, in some cases, 20 years out as far as what do I put money in for research, what do I want to build, and then there's a choice. Do I buy more of what I have now, or do I put money into research to buy something that hasn't been invented yet? So we take a look at all of the services approaches to that, and we look at some of the threats and challenges as far as these are the things that decision makers are looking at when they make these choices. So we try to be comprehensive as far as here's the goal, what we've been given from both the President and the Secretary of Defense. Here's how the services approach it. Here's how they approach it also while keeping an eye on the future. And here's how they come together to integrate.
So it's kind of like starting at the top and understanding the top level mission, and then breaking that down all the way down to the different types of units, right? Littoral combat ships versus marine divisions versus things like that.
We'll talk a little bit of structure for each of the services. The one thing that we assume is people know their jobs. The thing that they don't necessarily have the opportunity to see in their normal day-to-day work is the bigger picture. So I know my role, but what is my role when I look at service-wide or integrating the services, or what does Big Navy, Big Marine Corps, or Big Coast Guard, why are they going in this direction? Why is this thing important to them? So, if I'm a Marine and I say, I'm a tanker, why are they getting rid of tanks? I don't understand that. I love my tank. It's important. How does that serve the Marine Corps? Why are we going in this bigger direction? How does that integrate with all the challenges and the trade-offs? Because I like to say you can only spend the same dollar in the same minute once. So there are choices and trade-offs that services have to make on, there's only so much time to train, there's only so much money to buy things. Why are some of the choices made, the choices that are made?
So, whereas NAV 102, Modern Naval History, you're looking at the past, this is kind of like, how do we look to the future?
It's present and future. You have to meet the challenges of today and be prepared to meet the challenges of tomorrow. And that's one of the trade-offs that you have to look at is, hey, I would love to have all of these things now, but if I do it and I don't have any money for research, what does that mean in the future? And that's, in some of the examples we look in history for 102, we can see times where different choices were made and understand why those choices were made. And so we can leverage that when we look at some of the choices we have today and understand what decision makers have made and what some of the challenges they have based on challenges leaders have had in the past.
Okay, so let's say I take this course, I finish it, I'm a second class petty officer, or I'm a sergeant. How do I apply this to my work today?
Understanding how the things come together in the bigger picture. When we talked about understanding opportunity and understanding risk and seeing those things, if you see how things fit together, then you see the importance of different events and see that much sooner, or even see something you might not have seen before. Because you're an expert in your field, understanding how your field integrates and what the big service is trying to do and how those services come together, then something that may not have seemed important to you, or you may not have understood, you now have that understanding. So again, when we talk about speed in recognizing opportunity and recognizing risk, if you're able to expand out beyond your area of expertise and see how everything fits together, it's like, I didn't think this was a big deal. Now I know it's a big deal because I understand what the second or third order impacts are to other people outside my rate or outside my designator, and I understand the general direction that my service is trying to go. So if I got my head down doing my day-to-day and I never have an opportunity to see, why are we going in this direction? Why are these things important? Then I may not have been able to see how things fit together, and I may miss out on recognizing things that are important that I would have missed otherwise.
So kind of like saying the context of your mission in the bigger perspective of the overall mission. Exactly.
It's like if somebody tells you, hey, I need you to do X, and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm doing X, but you never know why. It's like if I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, then if circumstances change, am I doing the right thing? So as far as the one thing we all understand about our jobs is there's a fair amount of chaos in it. Not everything goes as planned. Not people that we are our competitors don't always act in predictable ways. So what do I do if there's a change? How do I understand what to do after something happens that people didn't anticipate? Are you resilient as far as understanding what is important even if the circumstances have changed? So we want to make sure everybody's in the game, everybody's going in the same direction, even when the unexpected happens. If you know the bigger goals and how everything fits together, then you're more likely to be able to be resilient in those unknown circumstances, in those unknown situations, because you understand the broader goal.
And have more buy-in into what you're doing.
Yeah, anytime you understand what's going on better, and you understand what your role is in it, then things start to make sense that never made sense before. Because like this is weird. It's like, why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense. And then you're able to see the bigger picture. It's like, I may not necessarily, maybe it's not what I would have chose, but I understand why the decision was made and what people are trying to do. And a lot of times it's like, oh, this actually makes a lot more sense, and I would have chose this because I see the pluses and minuses in what's getting weighed here.
All right. So to wrap it all up, basically, the Naval Force Design class is kind of like an overall view from the national security perspective, the national defense perspective, and understanding that huge level, high level mission, and how the naval services kind of fit into that, which gives students that opportunity to see the bigger picture, understand not only why we're doing the things we're doing today, but kind of looking forward to what the goals are 20 years from now and how we're trying to move towards that. And this kind of gives sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen the opportunity to see how their mission fits into the bigger perspective.
There's a lot of decisions that are made that impact them, the service members, not only today, but like we talked about in the future. And once you're able to put those things together, then you just understand your environment a lot better.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on today. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Pass the Word. And if you haven't yet, go to usncc.edu and sign up for the Naval Studies Certificate program as part of all of our associate degree programs.